Welcome to the Spotlight series. On today's episode, we have Andrew Griffiths. Andrew is Australia's leading small business author with 12 books published and currently sold in over 60 countries. He's widely acknowledged as one of the leading minds in the small business space. He's a regular columnist on Inc.com out of New York, a small business commentator for CBS, a mentor in the highly acclaimed Key Person of Influence program, and much more. Touting his own unique style of street smart wisdom and inspiration, Andrew seriously is one of a kind.
Well, that's nice to know. Hello, Renee. Nice to see you.
Great to have you here, Andrew. Thanks for coming along today.
Always a pleasure, doll. Always a pleasure.
Now, we've recently bumped into each other, and I'm just going to dive straight in because
Sure.
We don't have a long time, so let's just get straight to the nitty-gritty. I bumped into you recently and I was all excited because having launched my first book and published my first book last year, I'm raring to go, ready to go for book two. And I really loved the response that you said to me. I said to you, Andrew, I'm ready to write book two. And what did you say back? I
said, well, what have you done with book one? And what did you say?
Such a great question. I've got it here. Look, I've got
well, that's half the battle. I've got it here too. I've got it on my bookshelf. And it is a great book, I might add. Very, very good book. But it's a common kind of a thing, you know, Renee. I mean, one of the things that I do is obviously I help people to write books, and I've helped hundreds and hundreds of people to write their first book. And writing the book, and I hate to break the bad news to everyone, but writing the book and publishing the book is the easy part. In reality, it's the
hard bit.
I know, and I tend to hold off before telling people that part of it. But it really is, it's like, well, why are we writing these books? You know, like I write to make money. I'm very, very upfront about this. I don't write because I want to be Ernest Hemingway or any of that kind of stuff. I write to create, it doesn't mean I'm not passionate about it. You know that more than anyone. I'm extraordinarily passionate about writing and teaching people to write books, but I'm a commercial writer. You know, my goal is to turn my book into money. It's a promotional tool, it's a marketing tool, it's a credibility tool, and that's I'm very, very clear about what I want my book to achieve. So I'm very clear about that before I even write it. And I think a lot of people don't have that. They fall in love a bit with the idea of writing a book, but then they don't really know what to do with it. And I was a little bit like that too, Renee. I had my first book come out, you know, like 1,000 years ago, and I remember the book arrived, and I'm kind of going, oh my goodness, this is great, and I guess my Ferrari will arrive in a day or two. Like, surely the Ferrari's on its way. It's just got delayed, you know. Couldn't get up here as fast as that.
You had to go buy the 60 countries you're published in.
Exactly. Or maybe it's a Lamborghini and they had to pre-order it, you know, from my publishers at the time. And of course, I slipped into what then is known and very, very common amongst most authors. It's a thing called post-publishing depression. And it's where you think your book has come out now, all of a sudden it's going to be this magical fame and fortune. And of course, I was published by a company called Allen & Unwin at the time, and I kind of rang them and said, well, kind of not much is happening. And they said to me, well, what are you doing? And I go, but isn't it your job? And they said, well, we've launched it, promoted it, it's up to you now. And I went, oh, okay, I didn't kind of realize that. What does that mean? And anyway, so they said it's a very common thing. So that's like yourself. I mean, many, many authors who have written a book, and I say, well, where's your book? And they go, well, you know, what have you done with it? I said, well, the kids use the boxes in the garage as a table. They haven't really done anything with the book, or they've given a copy to their spouse. They don't really they haven't given it to anyone. They haven't leveraged it. And it's all about leveraging. I'm a much better book leverager than I am book writer, you know, so one of my things was I realised, okay, my first book came out. Fortunately, look, it was very successful in terms of sales and all the rest of it. Nice timing, and it was a good book about helping people to market their business, 101 ways to market your business. But there was still that post-publishing depression. And I kind of went, well, I don't really like this. And then my publishers asked me to write another book. And I went, you know what, if I'm going to do another book, I need to know how to do this better. So I embarked on a bit of a research campaign, and I kind of checked out anyone in the world who sold more than 1 million books, and where I could find them, non-fiction books. You know, encountered the likes of Zig Ziglar, Louise Hay, Tony Robbins, Jack Canfield, all those kind of old names that have been around for a long, long time. And I interviewed some of them, you know, met like T. Harv Eker in the States, Jack Canfield, Zig Ziglar, and actually interviewed them about, well, how have they been successful as an author, which is purely selfish. I just want to know what to do. And it was really interesting that they all had common characteristics. You know, they all worked closely with the media. They all printed books. None of them, they didn't just do ebooks. They developed great partnerships with other people. They really worked hard to leverage their book. And one of the things they did do, they made sure they didn't publish their books too close together.
Mm.
One of the problems is that when you publish your books too close together, you're already working on the next one before you've given the first one the credit that it deserves. And I published 3 books in 1 year once. It's probably my biggest publishing mistake. You know, it was just timing and 2 publishing companies and all the rest of it. It was just a crazy situation.
Mm.
But, you know, it needs to be at least 2 years, maybe even 3 years between books. So you really leverage your current book really, really hard and to give it the life that it deserves. And again, sorry, I'm not giving you much of a chance to get a word in here edgeways, am I, Renee? But you knew that would happen.
Totally unexpected.
Totally unexpected. But leveraging is, okay, you've written this book, you've gone to the hard work, you've self-published it perhaps, however you've got it, you've got this book, you put all your energy and time and money into. The idea of it is not to sell a pile of books. Everyone gets caught up on trying to sell lots of books. And I know it's easy for people to go, well, it's all right for you, Andrew. You sold lots of books, but I've made far more money from leveraging my books. And my goal is not to make $2 out of selling a book. My goal is to turn every book into a $10,000 project. That's how I look at it. I look at it as a seed. Every one of my books is a seed. My job is to get it in the hands of the people who would then buy a $10,000 product from me. Now, of course, not every book does that. If it did, I'd be a billionaire. But that's a bit of my philosophy. So for me, leveraging, I have a line that I use, which might sound a bit corny, but it's the truth. I work to leverage my books every single day, of every single week, of every single month, of every single year, of every single decade. Okay? That's all. Simple as that. I am leveraging my books all the time. And that's what you need to do to be successful as an author, in my view, in my opinion, and from my experience. But what does it really mean to do that? You know,
yeah, exactly. What does that mean? It's, you know, it's a lovely concept and thought, but, you know, how do we implement that? How
do we do it? What does it really look like? Well, for me, it means that you make leveraging your book a part of your everyday activity. So I literally am spending a couple of hours a day looking for ways to leverage my books. So what does that mean? Again, if you look at it, well, it'd be sending books out to members of the media. You know, and I do that in a very targeted, very specific kind of a way, not randomly send books out. I will find out who the small business editor or whatever section I'm looking for. I'll do a personal introduction. I'll send the editor or a contact 2 copies of my book, one for them personally signed and one just signed but not named, so they can give that to someone else in their organisation. Now, I've got a lot of media from doing that. As an example, I did that with the News Corp papers in Brisbane, and I sent 2 books. And I ended up getting a full page in the Sunday Mail, you know, circulation of 1 million+ people, simply because I sent 2 books to the editor, and the editor gave a copy to another person in the company who then ran a full page kind of thing. So the key is saying, well, I send my books out to the media. I send books out to potential people that I could work with. So if there's a new CEO of Virgin, for starters, someone like that, I'll send them copies of my books. Say, congratulations on the new job. Here's some information if you want to grow your small business market, if you want to do training of your people, whatever is relevant. You know, of course, that's not going to be relevant for everyone and what they're writing, but I find a way to make it relevant. So I'm looking for opportunities every single day. So each week at my house when I'm home, there'll be like 30, 40, 50 books on my table, kitchen table, that are bundled up ready to be sent out.
Wow.
They're going to media, they're going to key contacts, they're people that I've met on the road, they're you know, new business partners, whatever it might be, I'm shipping books. So you do the numbers, you know, I send at least 30 to 50 books a week, you know, 2,500 books a year. It's a big expense, but it's what drives my entire business. In America, if I'm being asked to do an interview by someone in the States, because as you mentioned, I write for Inc., I will send them a copy of one of my books from Amazon. So literally, I have had this a number of times when someone from a media outlet in America contacts me and say, could we do an interview in 2 or 3 days or whatever it is? I will then go online to Amazon, buy one of my books and ship it to them as a gift, and they have it within 2 hours if they're in Manhattan.
Wow.
So imagine what that's like for someone who's just emailed this crazy guy in Australia, and then next thing, you know, a couple of hours later, they literally have a copy of my book or copies of my book delivered to their office. You know what I mean? People don't do that kind of stuff. People don't think beyond that. They just kind of go, oh, here are my books. What do I do with it? I never leave home without my books. I just had a meeting this morning, coffee shop. I live 5 doors down from my favourite coffee shop. I know it means I've got a problem. Let's not dive deep on that one.
My coffee machine's downstairs, Andrew. Don't worry, mine's closer.
I find it's good to be close to your dealer. You know what I mean? It cuts down on kilometres, don't have to drive. But again, always have books with me. Gave one out to a guy I met at the coffee shop. Again, he's started a new business in town. Bang, bang. Here you go. Here's one of my books. standing in line at a hotel, I'll have books with me. I won't get on an aeroplane without 2 or 3 copies of one of my book in my backpack or in my briefcase. Going to meetings, I'll always have my books with me. You know, this is what leveraging your book is all about. It's part looking for opportunities. It's part taking advantage of existing opportunities. But the key is you've got to do this every single day. And most people run out of opportunities, and that people don't think like this. Why have I sold 1 million+ books? Why have I sold in 60 countries? Why have I been able to build the business I built? Because of that. Really, Renee, that's why. Because I do what other authors won't do. Simple as that. Most people won't go to that extent. And I get that it sounds daunting, but it actually isn't daunting for me when I look at what it gives me. When I look at the return on that for my marketing, is my books. Really, it's all it is, you know. And to be able to turn around and go, wow, this is the easiest marketing tool I've ever had. It's how I get all my speaking jobs. It's how I get, you know, everything that I do. If I'm at a conference, someone, whatever. I did a project for Hewlett Packard a while ago. You know, sent them, asked for an email list of addresses of their top 20 executives in Australia, and sent them all, you know, a copy of one of my books that was relevant to them. Ended up getting like a $200,000 project as a result of that.
Wow.
You know what I mean? This is the value of this kind of stuff that people don't get. What a lot of authors get concerned about, but it cost me $15 or $10 to send some of my book. I've got to buy some of my books from publishers. So it cost me like $15 to $20 to buy my books and give away 50 of them a week. Do the numbers. You know what I mean? Like it's an investment in it. But I'm not trying to scare people. I'm just trying to really emphasize that this is the kind of commitment it takes to be successful, like most things in life. A lot of speakers, a lot of authors, there's a lot of, you know, people doing whatever it is they're doing, but the top 1%ers will do what others won't. So to anyone who's listening or watching, you know, if you really want to be successful as an author, the simple thing is you got to, you know, leverage your books every single day, every single week, every single month, every single year, every single decade. It's all it is, you know, and you know, if you're prepared to do that, you'll get the results. But most people don't have the stamina. They start freaking out about how much it's costing them. They're not strategic in the shipping of the books, you know, that kind of stuff. And not, of course, not every book is going to be relevant for everyone. My small business is a big, broad market. If yours is a little bit more niche, well, you've got to work a bit harder to find the people to send it to. But you've also got to say, well, okay, you know, I've got to be smart about how I leverage that side of things. I get people send me a book all the time. And because I've got a bit of profile, I get a book turns up in an envelope saying, can you write a blog post about this and promote my book? You go, yeah, no. You know, like why would I do that? You know, like, yeah, when someone sends me one of their books and say, or send me a couple of copies, smart ones, they'll send me 5 or 10 copies. Say, Andrew, here's a copy for you. I've also emailed that personally signed. Never give a book away without it being signed, ever, ever, ever. And if you can personally sign it, like their name. But send me half a dozen books and let me give them away to friends or give them away as part of my ongoing promotions, and then make it really easy for me to write a promotional tool. Sorry, these are the two extremes, Renee. I guess someone will put it in an envelope, send it up and say, can you write something nice about my book? And I've got to kind of chase them for a cover image, or, you know, other smart people send me an email. I put 10 books in the mail to you. If you can use them, great. If you felt it was appropriate to write a comment or go on Amazon, that would be fabulous, but no expectation. Straight away, they've got me. You know what I mean? Because they haven't asked for an expectation. They've played me well. I'm happy to give them something. But again, and then by the way, here's a link to download the cover photo. Here's a link to download a photo. Here's a couple of paragraphs of copy that you can use. So it takes me 15 seconds to do a blog post about their book, as opposed to the other one that wants me to do all the work.
Yes.
And I've even had someone who sent me a book, asked me to write about it and put it on my blog, and I didn't. And they sent me a letter asking me to post it back to them. And I went, really? That's hilarious. Like, that is the funniest thing. Seriously, in 15, 20 years of being an author and having hundreds and hundreds, thousands of books sent to me, I've never, ever had anyone ask me to send the book back because I wouldn't write a post that they sent to me unsolicited, you know, to do. And I went, oh, my goodness me.
That is the other end of the spectrum.
So we've got to look at ways of kind of partnering and working with other authors, getting other people to kind of help to promote what you're doing. You know, all of those kind of things, Renee, are all about what leveraging is about, you know, and it's really... once you get some good rituals and routines happening as well, so it's not reinventing the wheel every step of the day. So you've got your templated letters, and maybe you've got an assistant who could kind of do a bit of the research work for you to find out who to send the books to, and personalising them. Another really interesting thing that I see, my friend Bree James, we do a lot of stuff together around the world now in different places. She runs a magazine, a parenting magazine in Queensland. And she gets a lot of authors public relations companies who send her books, you know, and what they've done is they've sent her a book, which is totally irrelevant to the family market. But there's somewhere out there, there's an author who's engaged a PR firm. They've just got a dud email list and just send out books to everyone, probably charged $100 a time. And so Brie ends up with these books that are like, how to appreciate fine cigars, or something. And it's like a family market. She's not going to promote that book or do anything. Yet, and most of the time they just end up being given to the Salvation Army or something like that. There's hundreds and hundreds of them where it's just sent to completely the wrong person. And it's kind of insulting, and it really shows that someone just doesn't care. No one's done any research. It is so wrong. And I look at that, God, if that was my money and that was a PR firm sending out a book on my behalf, I'd be furious, on that side of it. Yeah. So I don't know. What do you take out of all of that? Let me ask you a question.
Yes. Yeah. Well, so I'm coming back to the, how do you do the research? So for someone like me, for example, I'm thinking of how do I implement this myself? So where do I start with pulling together a list of who to send my book to?
So again, that for me is always pretty straightforward. I would tend to start with the media. The media is where you start to build your credibility. So you want to start to have trust logos on your website. So media that you've been featured in, all that usual kind of stuff. That's the place. But I always go one step further and say, well, what are the ideal 50 media that you'd like to be on? And these days we've got podcast shows, we've got, radio, newspaper. I mean, there's a lot of media around, and they're desperate for people who are credible to go on the show, and particularly authors, as well, when we have extra credibility. So you don't want to just say, I want to be in The Age. You want to say, well, I want to be featured in this section of The Age, or instead of being on Channel 7, I want to be on Sunrise. You know what I mean? And then you've got to track down, well, okay, I need to talk to the producers of Sunrise. I've got to, you know what I mean? It needs to be, the research has to go, if you just send your book to Sunrise in Sydney, nothing's going to happen. But if you find who the producer is, you send them an email, hey, I'd like to see my book, this is what I do. It might be something you could utilise on your show at some stage, Again, you do more of your homework and more of your research accordingly. So it's like everything you do when it comes to leveraging has to be smartly done. It has to be well considered. Okay, that's the real key behind all of this. So, that's again one of the things that people often do poorly is they're a little bit lazy about the research or even the leveraging side of things. Even something, Renee, is a little bit out there, but it's even the packaging of your book says a lot. You know what I mean? Like, I get a book that turns up just thrown in an envelope with nothing. It's like, what the heck am I supposed to do with that? Where someone actually wraps it, puts 2 books in there, writes a handwritten note, does all of that kind of stuff. You look at that and kind of go, well, that's fabulous. Like, it shows that they care. You got to treat your books with respect is another part of this kind of thing. So I know that's another kind of off the topic thing, but I do look at that and go, okay, that's that's important as well. But the key is to go, okay, if this person got a copy of my book, would it be of interest to them? How would they then be able to utilize it? Why would it be of interest to them? What's the possible partnerships, relationships that we could develop out of that? And I think that that's where we've got to know our target market, and we've got to know who's influencing that target market. So I'm in the small business space, but I would look at, there's a lot of people that are in that space, as well, but there's a lot of people who are influencers in that space, including myself. So I can look at it and go, I can send a copy of my book to the head of small business marketing for St. George Bank, because my books are relevant. I have sold thousands upon thousands of books by doing that. Simple as that.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It really isn't that hard. You just got to, again, think a little bit laterally, think a little bit outside the square, be a little bit more creative and innovative in what you're doing, all of that usual kind of stuff. And then be prepared and committed to work on leveraging your book every single day, every single blah, 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 blah,
Wow, that's great. So for me, I'm hearing then, so you're putting together, in doing your research, you want your top 50 media list, you're thinking about who are the influencers in your industry and, who could then pass on your book or talk about your book to their audiences. And also, if you want to get speaking gigs, for example, you could come up with a list of the event organisers, for example, and be sending
absolutely all the companies that have conferences on a regular basis. You know, like who's holding conferences? This is where you need to be part detective, but also part opportunist when it comes to leveraging your book. You never quite know. I was standing in line at an airport, at a hotel a little while ago, last year actually now, and it was early in the morning, 5 o'clock, trying to check in, you know, bleary-eyed, and the chap in front of me was just talking on his mobile phone, and he had a really unusual accent. And he hung up on the phone, and I just kind of tapped him on the shoulder and said, "G'day, mate, you've got a really unusual accent. Where are you from?" "Yes, I'm one of those irritating people." And we started having a conversation. He was from South America, interesting guy, here for work, worked for a telecommunications company. It was really an interesting conversation. I pulled out one of my books. There you go. I thought you may, sorry to interrupt you. I thought you might like a copy of one of my books. Anyway, I got an email from him a while back, and I ended up getting like a 5-city kind of job from this guy as a trainer, because his clients, I didn't really get what he did. He wasn't very good at explaining it, but he had to help retailers sell his products, his telecommunications products. All of his retailers or resellers were all small businesses. Can I do a national tour to teach them how to sell more? It was like $70,000-$80,000 project from tapping a guy on the shoulder, you know, in a line to check in at the Hilton in Sydney at 5 o'clock in the morning. The number of speaking jobs I get from someone who said, "Oh, hi, Andrew, I sat next to you on a plane from Perth to friggin', I don't know, Kalgoorlie a couple of years back, and you gave me one of your," I don't know who they are, I can't remember who they are, but you gave me one of your books, and now we would like to invite you to come and speak at our conference. So sowing seeds. You might not get an immediate response today, but the more seeds you sow, you'll be kind of investing in getting business tomorrow.
Yeah, right? The harvest comes later.
It does, and you've got to have a long-term approach, you know, when it comes to being successful as an author. And again, I think sometimes people don't have that. I think that they're a little bit, I think that they, you know, I do just think that people don't think long-term. They want, like I did, to be honest, Renee. You know, it was immediate, you know, instant gratification. Like, oh, I'm going to be rich overnight. And it took me to go, well, this whole book thing sucks. You know, like, why aren't I rich? Why aren't I a millionaire? And then I kind of went, well, okay, I've got to do the work. And I love that because most people are not prepared to do the work. So if you are miles in front of every other author. I guarantee it. You know, I'm not trying to be mean on authors. I work with a lot of them. You know, and the most common thing is, my book just didn't get the results I wanted it to get. The question is, what did you do with it? Nothing. Okay, do you see any problem in this discussion? You know, so that's why I spend my life teaching people how to leverage their books, or teaching people how to write books, but then how to leverage them. And I think this is, you know, my little kind of rant is always, there's a lot of people teaching others how to write books, but they don't teach them what to do with the books. And that's kind of only half the equation. You know, as authors, we know, you know, it's the greatest leveraging tool you can have as a book. You know, that's why Tim Ferriss, that's why Richard Branson, that's why everyone still writes books. They haven't ended. Even the techie guys, you know, like Gary Vee, you know, they're still writing books. You know, they haven't stopped writing books, even though they've got huge followings on podcasts and, you know, social media, because a book is still the most powerful of leveraging tools that you have. Says it all.
Does say it all. It's a big statement. We've been talking to Andrew Griffiths on how to leverage your book. It's not just about writing it and getting it out into the world. You actually have to leverage every minute of every hour of every day of every week of every month of every year of every decade, as he says. So thank you.
That's it. Simple as that.
Simple as that.
It's easy. That's my success formula. I've shared it with everyone now. My secret is out. And you know what? I'm not worried about sharing it because I still know that most people won't do it. That's why I'm happy to share that secret with people. And those of you who do get it, you know, the people who I admire as authors or are very successful, as soon as I say that line, they go, oh my God, that is it. That's all it is every single day. You've got to kind of become like a Amway salesperson with your books. You've got to be be prepared to have no friends. And basically, you're just going to be pushing your books. You're going to be an evangelist. You know, I sold my books at the markets when they first came out. I went to the local markets and set up a booth to sell books. This was part of my spiritual journey of becoming a successful author. And it was terrible because the only people that came and bought them were market weirdos. There's nowhere you could go. You're stuck there with your stand, and every weirdo known to mankind decides that they want to come and talk to the author.
And you can't even get yourself a coffee in that situation. Disaster.
Well, you put the weirdo in charge of the booth and then you leave. You know what I mean? Go, well, okay, it's going to destroy my brand, but at least I'm out of here and I can enjoy a coffee. But, you know, one last little thing I'd probably say, though, Renee, is I do have a lot of fun with marketing my books. I'm really proud of my books. I'm in a taxi or a Uber and I'm having a chat to an Uber driver and they're telling me a bit of their story or whatever, I'll give them a copy of one of my books. It costs me 10, 12 bucks. I don't care. You know what I mean? There's also a good karma element that's important. You know, I was in a taxi a while back and there was a Nigerian guy driving and he was talking and he's saying, what do you do? And I said, I write books. He said, you know, I've always wanted to write a book. I wanted to write a book to teach men how to treat their wives better. In my country, it's not so, you know, men don't treat their women as well as they perhaps should. And he said, and I've always wanted to do. I gave him a copy of my personal development book, The Me Myth, on the spot. Who knows? Maybe this guy is going to go and write that book. And I think that as authors, we have a bit of a moral responsibility as well to kind of help and encourage other authors. You know, and anyone you can come along to say, hey, you know, write that book. You know, give it a go. Share your message. Get it out there. If you can do that, you never kind of know what's going to come out of the end result of that. So
yeah. Absolutely. You've shared absolute gold today, Andrew. As always, I expected no less. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolute pleasure. Renee, thank you. I love being on your show and thank you. I think you're doing pretty special work too. And it's really nice to have to watch your, you know, particular trajectory over the last couple of years as you said you're going to do stuff and you do it. And I always admire people that don't just talk about it, but they actually do it. So kudos to you, Dawn. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Got to walk the walk.
Got to walk the walk, man.
All right. Thanks, Andrew Griffiths.